I am not sure if I'm live yet or not, but let me just share this quick link on Twitter, and and then we should be good to go. All right, we are live. Thank you guys so much for joining. For those who saw my announcement on Twitter, basically before I get into the all the UFC Newark stuff, I kind of want to explain to you what I'm going to be doing in this YouTube channel. Basically, I'm not starting a new one. This is a relaunch. For those who have been following me for a long time, this is really how I started before I joined MMA fighting. I just basically had my own YouTube channel. I do a lot of interviews and reactions and all that kind of good stuff. Let me turn off my amos real quick. Um, so yeah, basically, for those that have been following me now for a bit, I was on the MMA beat. I was on the MMA hour. Those shows came to an end, obviously, as we all know. And for the last few weeks, I've been kind of missing doing video work, to be honest. And I wanted to have a platform where I can share my thoughts on things. And I was kind of using Twitter through that, but video and just 280 characters or whatever it is that we use, it's just not the same thing. So I wanted to have this YouTube channel just so I can talk about whatever. So in this case, obviously UFC Newark. So that's basically it. So I'm not really sure what this little project entails. It's kind of open ended. It's whatever you guys want me to do on this YouTube channel, I'll do it. Don't get any weird ideas. Obviously MMA related. But other than that, yeah, I just wanted a place where I can a platform where I can voice my thoughts on things and keep doing video and keep sharpening my craft in the video department. So um, I invested in a little camera, which you guys see right here. It's actually pretty nice, and a mic stand and a nice little mic. Hopefully the audio is coming nice and well. And that's basically it. So I'll be chatting about MMA and share my thoughts on things. If you guys hear noise, that's because I am in New York City, and like ASAP Ferg said, New York don't know how to be quiet. So yeah, you might hear, people blasting bachata, blasting Takashi 69 because I do live in Bushwick, so that is kind of like the thing here. Um, you might hear police sirens, you might hear an occasional gunshot. I don't know. We'll find out. So yeah, that's basically it. Thank you guys for tuning in. So with that out of the way, let's discuss UFC Newark, aka UFC on ESPN 5. I have a few thoughts. Basically, it's really all going to be centered around the main event. No offense to any of the other fighters that competed on the card and had actually great performances, but that's really the main talking point there. Um, so yeah, let's get right into it. I'm going to share my thoughts, and as I go, you guys can ask anything on the live chat. I have the chat here pulled up, so I can answer those questions accordingly as I go along from topic to topic. So right off the bat, obviously the main event: Colby Covington defeating Robbie Lawler via unanimous decision. It was 50-44 and two 50-45s. I had it 50-45. I thought Colby dominated every single round with ease. However, the second round did look a little bit dicey, more dicey than the other ones for Robbie Lawler. So I could have scored it a 10-8. It wasn't particularly because Colby Covington did so much, but it was because really in that round, Robbie Lawler did absolutely nothing. Um, there was no striking going on. He was just constantly either defending takedowns, getting taken down, dodging some shots, or getting hit. But there was no attacking from his point. So that round could have gone a 10-8, but scored it a 10-9. I still thought it wasn't dominant enough, but nonetheless, I mean, fantastic performance by Colby Covington. Hate him or love him, the guy is a really good fighter, and he's been a good fighter for a while. Um, so yeah, very interesting stuff there. Colby Covington did look great, but I also suspect that Robbie Lawler had an off night. Does not take anything away from Colby, but I do think Robbie Lawler at 37, being in the wars that he's been, I do have questions about his future, which I will get to in the later part of this video. But let's discuss Colby's win. If you have any questions, throw them in the Bible approved vest. Yeah, I'm good, man. I do jujitsu, so I can defend myself against robbers or whatever. Um, Anyways, let's discuss Covington's win. Super impressive. If anybody has any questions about that, it is, throw them in now. Um, I think the man deserves the title shot. I mean, I think he deserved it when he won the interim belt. That's the whole reason why we have interim belts, right? Allegedly. Um, so with this is just the cherry on top. I mean, the man's on a 7-fight win streak. He took a gamble with this fight. It was huge. It was a huge gamble. If you can go on the MMA fighting post fight scrum with Colby, he detailed a cut that he had, and he wasn't able to spar. He wasn't able to do much. So he had a really really bad training camp, and then on top of that, he already did enough. He has an interim belt. He was on a 6-fight win streak. There was really no reason why he should have taken this fight. He did anyways because the UFC is going to UFC, and if he sits out, there's a chance he might get a title shot like Stipe did or Tyron Woodley did. But there's also a good chance, hype rules a lot. So there's a good chance that Masvidal could have taken that and ridden, the beautiful knockout he had over Ben Askren and gotten a title shot off that. Very possible. So it's one of those things where he did take the gamble, but it paid off. I didn't see the fight through TV. I was in person. I was at the arena covering the event for MMAfighting.com. In fact, that was the only fight that I saw in the arena. Most of them, I was just backstage doing scrums with the winners from the card. So I was watching all the fights through the TV. But that was the only fight where I'm like, look, I'm gonna go out to the arena, sit down on press row, and actually pay attention and look at this without any distractions. And I don't know how it came across on TV, but Jesus, Colby was so dominant. I mean, every single point of the fight, he just looked to be completely in control. And then I believe it was after the second round, entering the third, that's when he was like, you know what, I can strike. And at that point, he had wrestled, Robbie Lawler so much, and he was very fatigued that he just dominated in the striking department, which is hard to do against Robbie. So very, very, very impressive. Um, Say what you want about him. Say what you want about his whole shtick, his whole MAGA thing. Look, I'm not a fan, but I gotta give credit where credit is due. That man deserves a title shot. You saw the back and forth with Usman. It leads up to a potential ugly buildup, but nonetheless, I think it'll be a big one. It'll be a big fight. And if Usman wants to, you know, break into one of the biggest UFC stars and kind of cement his place as one of the bigger champions in the company, I think that I think that he needs a heel like Colby. He needs somebody that'll make him look like the good guy. So this fight makes sense from all points. But forget about the promotion, forget about all that. Just from a sporting standpoint, and Colby did say, if I don't get the next title shot, this whole thing is a joke because the man has done everything, not only from the media perspective but also from the sporting side. So he definitely deserves the title shot. All right. I do find some of his stuff funny, although we don't look eye to eye in some of the in everything he says. But I do think, and I'll give him props to this, he is getting better at his shtick. I remember when he first started, it was pretty cringy. Like he looked like he was reading off things. He would say off things. He would have like Tito Ortiz moments where he would just say things that did not make sense at all, get his sentences mixed up and everything. We at the scrum, he was just free flowing. We talked to him for like 20 minutes. Again, you can check that out at MMAfighting.com. And the man was just freestyling, and even a reporter challenged him, and he was there, like going toe to toe with him. And the man is getting good. The man is getting good at his shtick, and I just expect him to get better. So, in that sense, he is kind of turning into a very interesting character. Um, all right, let's talk about some of the things he said. Some controversial things post fight, obviously saying some horrible things about correlating to Matt Hughes' accident and better get out of my way because the train's coming. And we all know what happened to Matt Hughes. He was hit by a train while he was in his truck, and since he's had has battled a lot of issues. Also prior to that, but I think the accident didn't help. We know he was in a coma for a long time, and that was like a really a big turning point in his life. I mean, I think for anybody it would be. So I understand that people don't like Matt Hughes, and that was what I saw on Twitter, and that's also what Colby did to justify what he said. He's like, "Yo, Matt Hughes is not a good person, anyways. I don't like him. This, and that." Nonetheless, what's messed up is messed up. It doesn't matter if it's going, if it's talking about against a good person or a bad person. Obviously, that's subjective and up to you to decide. But nonetheless, it's pretty messed up stuff, especially um, after beating Robbie Lawler. I think Robbie Lawler was a gentleman throughout all this buildup. Colby gave him enough fuel for him to bite back and fire back at all the stuff that he said. Yet he was a gentleman, didn't say anything about Colby. If anything, he only said positive things throughout the whole week. So in fighting, I think, in this trash talking era, all right, fine. Almost anything goes in the build up to things. All right, you're trying to make the moment big. If you want to be a dick to somebody else after you win, okay, do that as well. But once the fight is over, man, pay your respects. I mean, Robbie Lawler gave you a big platform. Robbie Lawler stepped in there to fight you. He was a gentleman throughout the whole fight week. Be nice to the guy. I mean, I thought those comments were a bit unnecessary. Obviously, we're talking about somebody else, Matt Hughes, and actually Matt Hughes put out a statement which I'll read right now, and he kind of seemed okay with it. So if he's okay with it, then I can't really argue or complain about it. I can't get offended for somebody else. So I guess it's all right. But here's what Matt Hughes posted on Instagram. Not sure if Colby Covington should have used my accident as fuel for his post-fight trash talk, but that was one heck of a fight. Nice win for American top team. Robbie Lawler always puts on a good fight. Reminder though, this is the fight world. People trash talk, and you gotta have a thick skin. I don't know, man. I guess he's okay with it, so I guess we can move on with that. And funny enough, the picture before that, if you check his Instagram, is actually a picture with Colby in the Oval Office with Mr. Donald Trump, Dana White, Colby, Matt Hughes, and Dan Lambert. So I don't know if they're cool or what, but obviously Colby doesn't like them, but clearly hung out together and they have friends in common. So I don't know what the deal is there, but I guess it is what it is, right? As a lot of people in MMA say. But with that being said, just wrapping up on Colby's side, the man deserves a shot. He's done enough. He deserves it. Let's talk about Robbie Lawler now. I think he had an off night. I know somebody here in the chat said something. Let's see, too far to go back now. But off night, pathetic. You make me sick. Okay. I really did think he thought he had an off night. I don't think he was, he did say he felt great in there. Um, but man, there was just really no offense from him. And it's different if Colby's wrestling for 5 rounds and you go, okay, well, that's how you fight, Robbie Lawler. His strong point is the striking. So if he's constantly defending takedowns and you're just wrestling, 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 he's having no attack. All right, well, that's just the way the fight goes. But I think the third and fourth, and especially the fifth, Kobe was just striking with him the whole time. Robbie was just mainly defending, bobbing and weaving for the most part. But that's about it. I mean, he had some nice shots, but major. It was very not like Robbie Lawler, not very Robbie Lawler like. So at this point, he's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. That being, losing the title, one knockout loss to Woodley, of course. Sorry. And and yeah, so you start wondering what his future is in this company, what his future is in the sport. He is, I believe, 37 years old. And the difficult thing about his losing streak here is that there are some asterisks on those losses. So, for example, the RDA loss, he blew out his knee. I mean, you blow out your knee. That's one of your main. Uh, that's how you stand. That's how you're able to plant on your punches and really get some power behind them. So okay, and also RDA is a stud. All right, fine. Then the Yasker one, he was looking great until he got put into that bulldog choke, and Herb Dean messed up and stopped the fight when he wasn't out. So okay, that doesn't tell us much. But this fight is very telling. This fight really reminded me of the RDA fight where he was just kind of taking shots. And he didn't really have an injury here, like a knee injury, as far as we know. I mean, he definitely didn't say anything about that in his post fight speech or speaking to the media in his post fight scrum. So I don't know what's next for him. But what I would like to see the UFC do is I don't think he should be fighting a top guy in like a crazy win streak like Colby was. I think this matchup for this fight on Saturday was fine, but moving forward, I don't think he should be in the path of somebody that's on a crazy win streak and is on a title run. I just don't think he's there. Frankly, I don't know where he is. So he needs a matchup that allows us to know where he is. And he still, if it goes poorly and he still wants to compete, okay, well, at least you know what kind of route to go with him, right? Put him in fun fights, put him in fights that sell, put him in fights against other OGs, very much like that Coleman event, Clay Guida versus Jim Miller, right? Those type of fights. If he just looks like a killer out there, like he did against Don Cerrone at UFC 214, all right, then we can put you against the young guns, the top contenders, the guys who are gunning for the title, because he does make part of that. And although he is older, if he looks great, then he belongs there, right? Then he can fight the Leon Edwards, the Jorge Masvidal, or although I believe they're friends, so I don't know if they would fight. But I would like to see him take a fight that's favorable for him. So there are some options out there. I was just looking at the rankings. I think he did mention that the weight cuts are getting tougher. So Darren Till at 185, good opportunity for Darren Till to test the waters at 185, but not go against the super legit, middleweight. Although Robbie Lawler has fought a middleweight before, I think that'd be a good fight. Is also somebody that would stand and bang with him, so it'll favor him as well. We got Nate Diaz versus Anthony Pettis coming up. Um, we obviously have to see how that fight goes, but those two guys, I have a feeling, and from what they've said, it looks like they just won big fights, right? Especially Nate Diaz. Well, I think Robbie Lawler is that, obviously former champion, big name. I think the winner of that would make sense. I don't know if the timelines would align, because I think Robbie Lawler won some time off. I also don't know, the nature of the fight, how it's going to go. So that could be an option there. There's some people talking about the Askren rematch. I do think, I'm not a huge fan of that fight anyways when it was booked, so I'm not a huge fan of the rematch. But um, if the UFC wants to go ahead and do that fight, I think there is some, you know, unresolved business there, right? Unfinished business, obviously, given the nature of the ending of that fight. And, both coming off losses. Also, Ben Askren had a huge knockout loss, so I'm sure he wants a lot of time off. So does Robbie. So the timelines could potentially align, and it's still a big fight. But that's basically it. I mean, maybe Thiago Alves. Those two have never fought. I don't know if they're friends, because Alves is ATT, and obviously Robbie used to train at ATT, so I don't know if there would be an issue there. But I'd like to see him in one of those type of fights, a fight that is favorable for him, that is a good style of matchups for him, and against another veteran, and against somebody that seasoned, very much like that Coleman event of UFC Newark. So, um, yeah, I'd like to see what's next for him as far as opponents, and see where he's at in this division. I think the next fight will be very, very telling, because to be honest, fighting Colby Covington and looking like that, anybody could have looked like that, to be honest. Colby was in a 6-fight win streak. The guy's a killer. It could go either way. So we'll have to see and see how that goes. But interesting stuff there. All right. So I didn't really have much time to look at the chat, but I will take questions now. So if you got them, throw them out there, and I'll answer them. It could be about just about anything. Danny Trump is your president. Get over it. Okay. Yeah, he is. He is the president of the U.S. By the way, 7-fight win streak. I was talking about prior to the fight of against Robbie. So 6, right? Do the math. What's next for Tyron? Interesting. Yeah. So originally, Robbie Lawler was supposed to fight Tyron Woodley, and I know he wanted the Ben Askren rematch. That didn't happen. Obviously, he got Masvidal, and we saw how that went. Then Tyron Woodley had an injury. That fight fell through. Robbie ended up fighting Colby. Um, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that rematch. I mean, I don't know what the health is of Tyron Woodley, but he's still a top dog, former champion. His last fight was against Usman, so he's in that weird space where he was just the champion. He hasn't fought yet. So depending on the type of matchup he gets and depending on how he looks, he could very well get one win and then fight again for the belt. Especially, for example, let's say the next fight is Usman versus Colby. Let's say Colby wins. Let's say Tyron Woodley gets one win. There's so much heat and so much bad blood, so much footage that you can go back through the years to build up a nice fight. I can easily see the UFC justifying that, and just throwing Tyron Woodley back in a title fight. That's not necessarily how I would run things. I think if you lose, you go all the way to the bottom of the ladder. Not very bottom, but I do think 2, 3 wins are needed for you to get back to the belt. But um, we'll see what's next from Tyron. First, he needs to get healthy, and then I guess we'll see where that goes. But I think a top 5 opponent would make sense for him. I wouldn't want to see what I'm suggesting for Robbie Lawler, like take somebody all the way down from the pecking order. Um, I'd like to see him, see how he does against the top 5, and if he does well, okay, maybe another fight or title shot if all things align. And if he doesn't, well, then that's when you got to go to the bottom. But definitely a top 5 opponent next for Tyron Woodley. Let's see. Robbie versus the winner of Vicente Luque versus Mike Perry. I actually like that fight. When is that coming up? Let me see. That's fairly soon, I think. Let's see. Mike Perry. He is fighting Vicente Luque at UFC on ESPN Plus 14, August 10th. Oh, is that next weekend? Yeah, in Uruguay. Oh shit, yeah. Uh hmm. Okay, so Vicente Luque is on fire. So I assume if he's healthy and if he wins, which I favor him to win, he's very good. I would assume he would want to fight again fairly quickly, and I don't know if that's what Robbie wants. So I don't know if that makes sense. Mike Perry, on the other hand, I don't think he's that desperate for a title shot yet. Plus, I don't think he's on the win streak to do so. Um, yeah, he is. He won against Alex Oliveira, Cowboy Oliveira, but before that, he lost to Cerrone. So I can see him taking some time off and waiting for a big fight. So yeah, that could make sense. I wouldn't hate it. Um, but again, I think Robbie should take a different route. But taking the winner of Luque Perry, not a bad idea. I like more the Perry idea than the Luque one. Um, Vicente Luque, yeah, I mean he does deserve a big name after Perry, obviously with the win streak that he's on. But I just don't want to see that from Robbie. So we'll see how that fight goes, and maybe ask me the same question then. Let's see how I feel about it then. All right. Could you ever see Habib versus Colby if Colby wins the 170 belt? Not really. At least for now, that's not on my radar. And honestly, that'd be a pretty ugly buildup. I think the Connor versus Habib is the ugliest buildup you could possibly have at this point. And I think Colby versus Habib would follow. Would follow that. Yeah. So I wouldn't want to see it. And also, if Colby wins the belt at 170, you guys, if you guys have been following me, my work on the MMA Hour and MMA Beat, I'm not a huge fan of champ fights. I think it makes sense if you got two guys that are so dominant and are on streaks, then you make it. But this thing that you win a belt and then you just go up a weight class and win another, not a big fan. So no, I'm not in favor of that. How do you see Askrim versus Maya going? So obviously, you guys here pick that up, the music, Dembo. Shout out to all my Dominicans. Anyways, Askren versus Maya. You know what? Originally, that was a fight that I want to see as soon as he got into the UFC. That's still a fight that I want to see. Um, Maya, the thing is that I don't think Maya is the same Maya that was, a couple of years ago. Uh, I think Askren wins that fight. I think Askren takes him down, controls him, and stays out of submissions. Um, Maya's very good at submitting people, but also Askren is very good at avoiding submissions. So I don't know. It should be an interesting fight. But I think on a straight jiu-jitsu match, I think Maya beats him all day. But giving ground and pound, giving a time limit, giving stand-ups, gloves as well, because it's hard to grapple with gloves. I think Askren takes that fight. All right, let's see. Yeah, I'm excited for that Uruguay card. By the way, it's very interesting that the UFC is going to Uruguay. I don't know how much you guys know about Uruguay, but Uruguay is one of the smallest countries in South America. I think it has like 3 million people. So like New York is twice as big, which is crazy. Very, very small country, obviously very good at soccer. I don't know how strong the MMA fan base is there, given it the size of the country. Also, given, there's not really huge stars coming out of there. Um, I think Chile makes sense. There's a lot of fighters out of Chile. Chile is a hotbed for MMA. Argentina is as well. which they've gone to. I guess Uruguay is the next best thing after that. But yeah, it should be an interesting main event. It should be an interesting card, and the main event should be very interesting as well. Valentina was there. I saw her, obviously cornering her sister Antonina Shevchenko, and that was pretty interesting because they're actually flying out to Uruguay today. I spoke to the coach, um, Pavel, and yeah, he was telling me, yeah, we're flying out the next day. So kind of a gamble there because you don't know how that fight would have gone with Antonina if she would have gotten her, if she would have to gone to the hospital or whatever. Um, but yeah, I guess they're in Uruguay now, or or on their way there at least. Thoughts on Colby's porn star cardio? Yeah, man, the man trains his cardio in the bedroom and takes it to the octagon, I guess. Why did Atletico sign Trippier? He's actually been doing. He's pretty good, man. I like Trippier because Arias is also our right back, and Arias is very defensive. Trippier not so defensive, so I think they'll actually complement each other very well. I thought that was a very good signing. But yeah, we'll keep the soccer talk for another day because I know some people probably won't like it. Let's see. Um, okay, Joao Felix, that kid's gonna kill it. Watch. I mean, this preseason he's been destroying it. Any more questions? Let's see. Thoughts on Justin Gagey if he wins Cerrone? Yeah, Justin Gagey, he's very interesting. I think when he came into the UFC, he was just worried about putting fun fights together, and I think somewhere along the line he realized, hey, people like my style. If I win, I don't have to go on a 7 fight win streak. If I just put in a decent win streak and I'm a fan favorite, I could get a title shot, and that means a lot more money for me. And if I win, that means a lot more money moving forward. So I really, really like his mentality now at this stage. I think, for example, some of because he takes a lot of risks in his fight. I think it was against Eddie Alvarez he lost, right? Um, I just think he went into this mentality with like, hey, look, I'm just gonna put on fun fights, win or lose. Well, it's kind of important that you win. So I like always a fighter that goes in there with a winning mentality rather than just let me put on a crazy fight for you. All right. Any more questions regarding UFC Newark? I think I'm going here close to 30 minutes, so I'll answer a couple more and dip out. Do you think the perception of Colby as a boring fighter will change after the Lawler fight? I think it did. And actually, something that I've noticed, if you look at online at his Instagram, it's a lot of hate. If you look at the comments on YouTube about anything he does, it's a lot of hate. If you look at the media, to be honest, it's a lot of hate from the media. Obviously, media in general, people that do media tend to be liberals. Colby is not. So he's been getting a lot of hate, but something I noticed was at the workouts, dude, a lot of fans like him. Not only Trump supporters, but just everybody in general, because he does, in a way, put on a show, right? He just doesn't go there and just work out the whole girls thing and doing all that, which caught me by surprise. It's entertaining one way or another, whether you like it or not. It's something different, right? So people did really enjoy his presence, and there was a lot of cheers for him in that arena. It was insane. So I do think he is turning some kind of corner, and I don't think as far as turning a corner into being a good guy, but I think he's getting good at his job at the heel, and a lot of people no longer find him as cringe and just kind of like rooting for the heel. So I feel like that's where he's at right now. And as I said earlier on the stream, he is getting better at his shtick. So I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens if he even wins the belt. But I do think he's developing a strong fan base. It's just not let's just hate on this guy and let's watch him to get his to see if he gets his ass kicked. I think there's actually support for the guy. And sorry for my voice. I've been under the weather this whole week. I've been pretty sick. So um, yeah, just pulling through here. Let's see. What do you think about Colby's comment about Matt? Yeah, yeah, I addressed that earlier in the video, so you can go back and check that out. What's bigger, McGregor Masvidal, Diaz McGregor, or Diaz Masvidal? Dude, I want to see all those fights, man. But I would say the Diaz McGregor, just because like people know that rivalry. It's 1-1. Quick anecdote: when I was only part time with MMA fighting. I did a lot of um, freelance stuff, and one of the things that came to my plate was being a translator for a Brazilian rapper. His name is Manu Brown. Apparently, he's like a really big deal, and I speak a bit of Portuguese, so he was doing some recording here in New York City, and a friend of mine that works with artists, he's like, "Yo, I need somebody that can translate. I'll give you some money." So I went, and he started asking stuff about me, and I told him I worked in MMA, and he's like, "Oh, Nate Diaz, I really like him," and he went on to talk about Nate Diaz for forever. This Brazilian dude, and I'm telling you, Nate Diaz has a really strong fan base. Obviously, Conor McGregor does as well. I think a third fight, I don't know if it breaks the Habib Conor record, but I think it comes close. I think that'd be a very big fight. Yeah, the biggest fight out of those three. That possibly, yeah, maybe, especially if Stylebender wins that. There's heat there, and that'd be a fun and exciting fight. So possibly, yeah. All right. So this is 30 minutes on the live stream. I was mainly gonna take just questions about UFC New York, but you guys were asking some other stuff, so I'm completely fine with answering that. So I'm gonna end it here. But thank you guys for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, give this video first of all a thumbs up, and then subscribe to the channel. And also comment below about what you want to see on this channel. As I said, this is kind of like an open-ended project where I just want a platform where I can share my thoughts on MMA. And a lot of people have reached out to me asking like, "Hey, Danny, like we really want a podcast from you now that the MMA hour is over." Um, and if I do a podcast, I'd want to do it through MMA fighting because that's where I work. But this is like the next best thing after that. So um, the podcast idea is what we're still looking into making shows and stuff. But as far as like putting out these videos and answering questions and reactions to news and pre and post thoughts on events, I'm all for it. And if you have any suggestions on what else I should do here, let me know in the comments. And you can also just tweet me. So yeah, I'm gonna call it here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. This is my first time doing this, obviously, in this relaunch. It was fun. I hope to do it again more often. And that's about it. So thank you guys for tuning in. And that's it. Thank you. Au patleti. Okay.